Why is it that sitting down for 20 minutes can somehow make us feel guilty? I mean, we finally have a free day, and instead of enjoying it, the brain starts making to-do list. I mean, raise your hand if you've ever had a day off, finally sat down on the couch, and within 5 minutes, you suddenly remember 17 things you should be doing. The laundry, the email, the groceries, the phone call you've been putting off. Maybe you should meal prep. Maybe you should do the junk drawer. I mean, because today is the day that the junk drawer is ruining your life. I mean, come on. Like, nobody has texted you. Nobody asked you to get up. Nobody expected anything from you. Yet somehow you still couldn't relax. Why? Who taught us that? Ugh, yuck. Hello, you beautiful souls. Welcome back to the couch. And this is the Pathway to Understanding, where we get real about healing and yap about life along the way. So, can we talk? Somewhere along the way, rest became the reward. And I don't think millennials have a rest problem. I think we have a permission problem. Because somewhere, rest stopped being a basic human need, and because something you unlocked after finishing enough tasks, like a game. How many of us growing up hearing, I'll sleep when I'm dead, no days off, rise and grind, if you got time to lean, you got time to clean? That one's funny. Even if your parents never said those exact words, our culture did. The social media came along. Everybody is waking up at 4 a.m., running 6 miles, cold plunging, drinking greens, launching a business, reading 50 books a year, learning another language, buying rental properties, starting podcasts, which, okay, I guess I'm part of the problem here. Somehow, existing quietly started looking like failure. And that's where I realized nobody ever sat us down and said your value depends on how much you produce. But somehow, that's exactly what many of us learned. For me, this has shown up in ways that I didn't notice. I own a private practice. I'm creating digital products. I'm recording this podcast. I'm working on my health goals. I'm reading. I'm traveling. I'm hiking, building businesses, planning retreats, creating content. And none of those things are bad because I do genuinely enjoy creating. But one day I realized I can remember the last time that I rested, where I wasn't doing anything that required everything of me, where I could just be, where I could just not be scheduling tomorrow while pretending to relax today, where I am just watching trash TV. And when I say trash TV, I mean when I am able to watch TV where I am not analyzing the people and the characters and things, and being able to be fully immersed in the moment to allow the emotions to flow to where I am crying, to where I am, these are my friends that I'm watching on the TV. That being able to decompress my mind has that second to breathe. It leads into the lie that millennials were told. They sold us a lie. They said, go to school, do the things in this way, stop by the Starbucks, and you'll be able to afford a house. I don't even frequent Starbucks that often, and that house. I mean, unpopular opinion, hot take. Intentionally, we were sold the lie because quietly over the years, little by little, the lies sounded like if you're productive, you're valuable. If you get good grades, you are worthy. If you're the responsible one, you're lovable. If you're successful, you've made it. If you're always helping, people will need you. If you keep achieving, you finally feel enough. Think about how we introduce ourselves. I'm a therapist. I'm a teacher. I'm a mom. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm in grad school. I'm a nurse. I'm a business owner. We almost always answer the question, who are you, with what we do. Isn't that interesting? And it was so important to me when I started this podcast that it be separate from my therapy identity and it just be Sequoia. Because when we think about who we are outside of the roles, we draw blanks. Isn't that interesting? Because if my job disappeared tomorrow, would I still know who I am? If Instagram disappeared, would I still know my value? If nobody needed my help anymore, would I still know what made me lovable? And that is a terrifying question because for so many of us, our identity got wrapped up into our usefulness. And usefulness is exhausting. I think about how I have lived my life and how I have made myself useful in nearly all of my relationships. And that is not sustainable. That is exhausting. And when you come out of that, usefulness is productivity, is love, is my value. Oof, is definitely a situation worth navigating with the therapist because it will have you feeling crazy. It will have you second guessing yourself because your way of life has changed, as does it for others, and the connection looks different. And I think about retirement sometimes and why so many people struggle after retirement. And it's not because they hate free time. It's because for 40 years, more like 50, 60 years these days, their work answered the question, who am I? And when that role disappeared, they have to meet themselves again. And honestly, I wonder if some of us are already experiencing that. Not because we're retired, but we're so busy producing that we've forgotten how to simply exist. When I think about one of my favorite books of all time, Ikigai, and it is the sweet spot to finding what you love, how you can get paid for it, what the world needs, and what you enjoy doing. I think it's 4 different things, but that sweet spot is that Ikigai. Because in the Japanese culture, there is no word for retirement. You ever thought about that? We Americans spend our lives like ready to get to retirement, ready for the work to be done to get it over with. Because we feel like we cannot live life while we're working. We feel like we are under scrutiny when we do take time for ourselves when it comes to the job, when we're putting in PTO, which is always been affectionately known to me as prepare the others. Because if nobody was grading your life anymore, would you still know how to live it? And I'll let you sit with that for a bit. Something else that I've considered is the rest does feel unsafe. And this is where I put my therapist hat on for just a second. But this isn't only cultural, it's biological. Me personally, I've spent years living in survival mode because I'm always anticipating, always helping, always fixing, always carrying everyone else's emotions. And so my nervous system learned something. It learns that movement equals safety, being busy equals safety, productivity equals safety. So when life finally gets quiet, my body doesn't immediately think, finally, peace. You know what it thinks? Wait, something's wrong. Because silence feels suspicious, stillness is certainly unfamiliar, and our brains interpret that unfamiliar as unsafe. And that's why some of us clean instead of crying. That's why we scroll instead of sitting with ourselves. That's why vacations don't magically fix burnout. I recently went to Iceland and it was amazing. The scenery, the culture, the people, the experience. But one of the things that I truly enjoyed about Iceland was how slow it was and not having to rush to make decisions and only having three decisions to make when it comes to options. Being able to slow down, being able to literally have all of the time in the day because the sun didn't set. When I think about how important it is for the nervous system to have that moment to regroup, yeah, I our nervous systems packed itself inside the suitcase. And I remember taking time off before and thinking, this is going to fix everything. Then I'll be lying on the beach, checking emails, planning content. I mean, letting my mind go. Okay? Not because anyone expected these things of me, but because my nervous system expected me to. And having that realization changes things and how you move, how you navigate. And in this health journey that I'm on, the bombshell of if I slow down and if I meditate and if I allow my brain to rest, my mind to heal, or maybe I should have said that backwards. But if I allow these things, if I allow this rejuvenation to happen, I'll be able to get where I need to go. And in a world where bodies are set up different, hormones are all over the place for a lot of people, and learning that for a body pumping with cortisol, cardio is not the best, and being able to slow down and do the yoga, do the Pilates, stretch my body morning, noon, and night, honestly, is what it takes. When did healing become productivity? What I have been exploring with my clients is that the healing journey also incorporates rest because that rest is sometimes the integration. Because healing has become yet another thing to optimize with more journaling, read more, do more, go to therapy, do the meditation, yet another habit tracker, yet another supplement, yet another something. And y'all know I love a good self help book. I love learning. I love understanding people. But I had to ask myself something uncomfortable. Was I healing? Or was I just consuming healing? And very much like a lot of things that I do, and when I have an interest in something, it is all gas and no brakes. And I'm going to dive in deep and I'm going to go down the rabbit hole and I'm going to spiral about it because I need to know all about it. Because that for me, being able to control what I know does, or at least I have equated to know it as safety. And so I've been consuming healing. I've been consuming preparing for the podcast, for the private practice, instead of actually doing it. Because sometimes learning about healing becomes socially acceptable way to avoid life. And real healing isn't just processing trauma. It is laughing. It is traveling. It is reading fantasy fiction, watching trash TV, trying something I've never done before, calling your friends, being bored, living. Healing should expand your life, not become your life. And heavy on the being bored. I have been allowing myself to be bored, and that is where I'm discovering what and how I would spend my free time. Here's what's funny though. Science has been trying to convince us. Here's what's funny though. Science has been trying to convince us of something that nature knows already. Rest lowers cortisol. It improves memory. It supports emotional regulation. It strengthens the nervous system, the immune system. It improves creativity. It supports decision making. It helps with weight regulation. Athletes know this. Olympic athletes don't train every single day. Recovery is a part of the program, and without recovery, performance declines. So, why do we expect ourselves to produce nonstop? Well, literally, every system in nature depends on rhythm. Trees don't produce fruit year round. Earth has seasons, supposedly. I don't know, because in some parts of the world, depending on where you live, you probably get 2, maybe 3. But even the ocean has tides. Everything rests except for us. And somehow we decided every season needed to be a harvest season. So lately, my experiment that I've been running, instead of asking what should I be doing, I'm working through what would nourish me right now. And sometimes it's reading. Sometimes it's taking a walk. Sometimes it's leaving the dishes until tomorrow. Sometimes it is sitting outside with my plants. Sometimes it's laughing with people I love. Sometimes it's doing absolutely nothing alone. And honestly, it still feels uncomfortable sometimes. But that's the part nobody talks about, or at least not enough. Learning to rest. We can feel just as vulnerable as learning to heal. But every time I choose rest anyway, I'm teaching my nervous system that I don't have to earn peace. Maybe the goal of healing was never to become the most productive version of ourselves. Maybe it's to become the most present version of myself. The version that laughs more, sleeps more, dreams more. I have been having dreams. They've been crazy, but I've been able to remember my dreams. I've been able to play more. I've been able to love more, exist more, because my life, your life, was never supposed to be measured only by what we accomplished. It should also be measured by what we experienced, who we loved, what made us laugh until our stomach hurt, the sunset that you stopped to watch, that book that changed you, the conversations that healed you, the moments where you were fully there and aware. So, before I let you go, I want to leave you with this. If you truly believe your worth was never in question and no one was grading you or watching you live your life, how would you spend tomorrow differently? I hope that you slow down. I hope that you take the nap. I hope that you call the friend that's been on your mind. I hope that you finally sit outside without feeling guilty. Would you give yourself permission to just simply be? Because maybe, just maybe, that's what healing's been trying to teach you all along. So, until next time, I'll save you a seat on the couch.